Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet?
I love people as I meet them one by one. People are just wonderful as individuals. You see the whole...
My great aspiration, my greatest ambition is to be so good. Now, in that way, I'm tiresome, as I suppose, to live with, because I want to be a fantastic human being.
I am the greatest. We're not disputing that, Cassius, but how does Sonny Liston feel about it? He can't feel but one way, and let's take everything I say and like it. Because February the 25th, I'm going to take back my job. I'm the champ. He's no champ. He's a tramp.
When you see men fall, don't laugh. Learn. Learn. Because you're on your way up. And the things that tempt people to fall, you and I are not free from that temptation.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Art Muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait a minute, how they get it? If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there. They got lanes closed. They got their strange machines. How did they get up there?
Yo, what's going on, peoples? Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. Chaos Theory just gave it an official title like a week ago. I like it. I actually love it. Shout out to Sydney. I'm gonna bring her up. This is her show, her element. This where she get down, take a break from the drama and gossip with Diddy and all that other stuff. We get into some science. We get into some conspiracy situations. You dig? Glad to be here. Happy hump day to everybody in attendance. Thank you for showing love. Do me a solid. Repost, share, let the people know that we are on and we are live, man. We are better than we were before. I've been working, man. I'm trying to tell you, I am not like a day school. If you want to keep up with us, follow me on all streaming platforms. You got any topics, weather related, science related, maybe you want to see us answer some questions in regards to some things that might be going on in the community, whatever. Email me. Let's rap. Spoken word. Let's rap. Paranormal stuff. Let's rap. I'm a jack of all trade. I like to talk about any and everything that I can. What was I about to say? Tomorrow, the virtual open mic is going down. I don't care what is happening. We will get it done. Saturday, I got something special for y'all. The work don't stop. I'm going to bring the woman of the hour up. And I want y'all to pay close attention, get comfortable, grab you something to snack on, something to sip on, whatever you need to kind of just chill and relax, forget about the day. Hopefully you already took your shower. Sydney, if you are ready, you are up.
Hello.
What up?
Good to see you.
Likewise. What's the word?
Not much. I'm very excited. One of my historical books came in. I think it's $18.99. Wait, no, it's before that. After that. This one. What do you want to say in the front? 1902. Discussion on volcanoes and earthquakes. So I'm really excited. I really love getting old books about science because you get a lot of diagrams and drawings and pictures that you can't find online anymore. Like you can sometimes find them on postcards and stuff, but it's also removed from the text descriptions and stuff. And I also find it interesting to have historical texts of science and history so you can see how things have changed over time. Like you can catch differences in how science is expressed and how history is expressed and the stories that are told over time. So I always love getting old texts of stuff because then you can have a unchanging version of history compared to the this website has been removed style
Right.
solidity of the internet.
Not mad at it. This is an interesting one to me because honestly, I think about myths, I think about legends, and this is never on my top 5 list. When I think about it, it's always surrounding maybe mythology or something along those lines. It's never usually science related. I don't know why, but I figured this would be a good one to cover. So, I mean, maybe you can enlighten us on this one. SM salutes to you. I see you in the building. Oh yeah, by the way, to the people who are watching, right? Your comments go directly to the screen now. Shout outs to StreamYard. Y'all been hearing the request. Now I don't even have to go over there. I can it just automatically pops up on the screen down here at the bottom. So if y'all comment or leave anything, it's just gonna show up on the screen. So I like that little feature right there.
Yeah. Apparently I get to show up twice though for some reason.
I'm still trying to look. It does it to me too, and I don't know why. I think it's probably because I'm tacked into my other backup account on YouTube. I have a page where I just upload my shorts. So that's probably that. But my Twitch, I don't know why it does that.
So, I think one of where I want to start are kind of the general myths about climate change that, I mean, these we're kind of confronted with every day. These are a huge part of the argument within whether or not we should do anything about climate change. But even the basic aspects of climate change are largely mythologized by various groups in the world. One of the myths that I hear perpetuated a lot is that climate change is a natural cycle, that it's just what the earth does, that like we couldn't do anything about it even if we wanted to, that we couldn't possibly do anything because it's a natural cycle. This is unfortunately not true, as much as I wish it was true, because if it was a natural cycle, these swings would not be as severe as they potentially can become. We wouldn't be able to do anything about it, but we would be able to understand what is going to happen with more certainty. Because if something happens in natural cycles, you should, as a cycle is, you should be able to predict exactly what's going to come next, because that's what a cycle is. It's something repeating over and over and over at the same rate, at the same pace, unless it's been affected by external stimulus. So we should be able to, in theory, be able to understand exactly what's going to happen with climate change if it was a cycle. But we're seeing that every single year since 2016, I believe, has been hotter than the last one. We've had record-breaking storms almost on a regular basis since the 90s, and gradually ramping up in intensity. And we've also seen a dramatic shift in the location of environmental regions, biomes, where plants live, where animals live. Things are shifting, moving to different locations. Animals are migrating northward to get access to colder temperature and more water, more vegetation. Plants are starting to migrate to new locations. We're also seeing birds start moving their migration patterns. They're going on routes that they have never gone on before in generations, and sometimes even thousands of years. In America, we unfortunately don't have very good records of environmental history before 1850s or so, because largely the U.S. has been populated by Native American populations, but they historically have only recorded, most tribes recorded their history through oral tradition that was passed down through generations. And so then any sort of writing that was done was either done on clothing, on their buildings, on rock faces and stuff like that, or through art that has since degraded and been lost to time. So we don't have a very good record of the environmental situation in the America as much as we do in Europe and Asia. Europe and Asia have had cultures much more effective and efficient at collecting records on various phenomena happening. Japan is one of the poster childs. They tracked everything from whale migrations to fish migrations to numbers of animals to bird migrations and numbers. They've had I think over 1,000 years of documentation of earthquakes, of tsunamis, including actual measurements of size, location, height of the wave, amount of damage. So we do have a lot, a pretty long, a lengthy record of various environmental patterns. And in this last, I'd say 150 years or so, at least accelerating within the last 50, we have seen a rapid shift from that trajectory. A lot of these different patterns are shifting widely. Like this is not just a case here, case there. Like this is across the board. Species of all kinds, birds, bugs, insects, fish, all of the what we call keystone species that really indicate, like a canary in a coal mine, that there's something wrong with these systems because they are more fragile, they're more sensitive to environmental changes. A lot of these animals are starting to show significant losses. That's why we're seeing what's happening with bees. Bees have a very specific requirement for their environment they need a very, very specific temperature to raise their young. And if that temperature goes above a certain point, the bees just die. They roast in their cells, and the bees can't cool their hives fast enough. So we have to be aware of these indicators, because the animals are really the ones that are letting us know that something is very, very wrong with our system. It's unfortunate that there's a lag time, in the same way that somebody doesn't notice a house fire until it started spreading to the next rooms. People usually don't catch a house fire when it's just a little fire in a trash can. You only start to notice it when the smoke and the heat starts to show up. That's kind of where we're at right now, where we're only now starting to notice the smoke and the heat. Only people that were experts studying this, waiting for this, are the ones that really recognize that it's happening. But now we're getting to the point that even if you aren't an expert, it's going to be hard not to notice. We are seeing areas that have never seen flooding before getting massive storms wiping out their entire communities. We've seen areas getting every 1 in 1,000 year storms, which to briefly explain what that means, when scientists say 1 in 100, 1 in 500, 1 in 5,000 years, whatever, they're basically saying this type of storm, this strength of storm, would only show up at an interval of once in every 5,000 years. But we're starting to see that happen every 5 years, every 10 years, or in some places every other year or every 5 years. The Gulf Coast is one of those places that is seeing this. Another region is the island nations below China, in the, I want to say the South China Sea, but I'm not super great on the geography in that area. But basically the area, so Asia's here, Africa's here, this area over here, all of those nations, they are really struggling. Indonesia, Pakistan, India, Mongolia, oh my God, I'm totally forget the country where Mount Everest is. All of those areas are struggling with record flooding, with massive swings in temperature, with heat waves on a catastrophic degree where they're literally killing hundreds of thousands of people. They had a heat wave in, I believe it was either India or China. It was either 2019 or 2021. But I think it killed around 300,000 people over a span about the size of the United States. And even here in the United States, we're seeing it. We're seeing heat waves in places that have never seen heat above 90 degrees. We're seeing heat waves in places like Minnesota. We're having, I'm not even kidding, there are forests in Canada that have literally spontaneously combusted because it got so hot in those regions that the internal temperature of the tree and the air outside caught the sap inside the trees on fire and literally made the trees explode. It also has the capacity to make the ground explode in areas where it's very, very cold. In places like the Arctic, Russia, Finland, Iceland, Norway, they have permafrost. I think Norway has permafrost, but definitely like the Arctic Circle area, there's permafrost, which is soil that has been frozen for so long that it's frozen solid and it's trapped things in there for like thousands of years. There's a lot of gases locked up in there, so it releases a lot more of these greenhouse gases when it melts. But if that happens, like you have frozen ground and that happens underground, it can form a pocket of gas and explode outwards. A famous example is the Tunguska event. Very interesting if you ever want to look that up. Some people say that it was a meteor, but personally, I think it was a methane explosion. I think they might have recently discovered that it was that. But there are also plenty of other examples of these explosions. Siberia is having a lot of them right now. It also is causing the land to shift. So I believe they were pine trees, but I don't know the types of forest as well. But I'm fairly certain it's pine because those are very common out in Canada. Could have been something else though. But that's all to really show. All of this was to show that climate change is definitely happening. It's 100% starting to affect us. This is not something that's no big deal. This isn't a pattern that we're just having to deal with because this is what the Earth normally does. This is not normal. If you ever look up the temperature trajectory of this planet, it isn't. There's no gentle curve. It literally goes like, here's the 1850s, you get to the 1950s, you get to the 1980s, and then you get to 2016, and it just goes straight up. So this is not something that the Earth normally does. This is 100% human activity. It's a the combination of the output from us, the output from the environment, because now that we've stressed the environment this much, it is also now releasing carbon dioxide because it's holding too much. And also the way we've engineered our environment also does not help us. Concrete gives off carbon dioxide. I believe bricks might also, or they might absorb it. I don't remember. But I know certain materials will actually emit greenhouse gases as well. Also, the pavement holds heat, so the heat island effect makes cities hotter, and hotter cities generate storms, and so you're gonna have more storms around bigger cities that are more severe. It's this whole compounding cycle. But yeah, 100% is happening. There's no doubt about it. Another myth that is pretty prevalent and frankly quite discouraging, and I absolutely hate I love dispelling this myth. Individual actions don't matter. First of all, I think it's absolutely foolish to say that, because literally individual actions is what got us here in the first place. We individually, as people, polluted the entire planet, and we caused this problem. So we can definitely have an impact and reverse the problem. Collective action is the only option we do have. We have to work together on this, because obviously this problem is much, much bigger than us. And the only way that we're going to be able to make a big enough dent in a geoengineering long-term project as we've done, we need to all work together. It needs to be scientists, politicians, average individuals who are using the materials, the people extracting it, the farmlands, everyone involved in the system needs to be part of revising the system. So this whole lie of individual actions don't matter, so there's no point in doing anything, is completely BS. We really should be obligated to do something. Granted, everyone's going to have different amounts that they can do. Everyone has their different lifestyles. You can't expect a homeless person to go out and invest in wind farm energy. Obviously you have to do what you can do at the level that you're at. But we still have to do something. We still have to take steps to do something, because as I always like to say with the snowball method, every little tiny action does matter, because there's always going to be people looking at you. People are going to see what you're doing and either say, oh, that's a good idea, I can do that too, I want to do that too. And oftentimes they have families, so their families will see them and their friends will see them. People around them will see it. They might even be people of consequence and might be able to make policies in their own workplaces to encourage it from other people. So individual actions do 100% make a difference, because it'll spread outwards. The more people that do it, the more examples that others will have to follow. So I think it's really, really important to make individual actions, because they really build on each other. Even with our own lives, individual action are what make our habits. They're what make us. We are what we repeat. So if we want a world that's better, we have to repeat it. We have to exemplify it and act it out. And I think it's sad that we have so many people that are disenfranchised and that are just sitting around waiting for someone else to tell them what to do, when we kind of all know what to do. We just aren't doing it because we feel so disempowered. Everything feels so like, I mean, think about it, what we're dealing with right now in our country. It feels very like, what am I supposed to do? I'm just one person. Like, I can't make the person go, like, I can't make it go away. I can't just like, poof, it's gone. But we have to start making moves to actually make these changes in our individual lives, because once you start adapting, it makes it easier to adapt in the future. A lot of these changes are more cost effective, are more sustainable in the long run, in terms of like being able to sustain the habit in the household. It, like, a lot of them are a lot more convenient and just nice. Like, I would much rather have 10 reusable metal straws in my house that I just have to rewash than having to constantly like pick up plastic straws from around my house and the wrappers, and having to like constantly remember to buy them, and all like just dealing with all of this repeated buying and stuff. Like, reusable products are a lot more convenient, nicer. So yeah, small actions 100% make a difference. And my favorite quote that I'll end this point on is, if anyone ever thinks that one individual is incapable of being noticed or making ripples, being able to encourage action, has never had a bug in their bed. Because one small being definitely is able to make ripples in its environment. So yeah, definitely make a difference. If you notice something that needs to be done, be the one to do it, because if we're all waiting for someone else to do something, we're never going to get anything done. Let's see.
Anybody who think you ain't got a role in any of this, you got to be on something. You have to be. They have trash cans and recycling bins everywhere, and people still won't use them. I mean, and then, like, to be honest with you, and I've said this before, we don't really pay too much attention to the earth, even though the earth is solely responsible for everything that we enjoy and embrace so recklessly. We are very irresponsible, very childish. We don't use common sense, nor do we do the research that's necessary to address the ramifications behind our neglect towards the way we treat the planet. Why are you surprised when it gets hotter? Why are you surprised when the air isn't as pure as it used to be? Why are you surprised that the food and the quality and quantity of it is on a decline? And you start to notice that the weather is changing and it's not what it used to be. Back in 92, 93, 94, I expected snow. I expected it to be winter, a real winter. Not this, whatever you want to call it. a real winter. It was cold up until I say what, March, late February, March, and then it's like this right here. I don't know what this is, but even I paid attention and noticed that.
Meanwhile, Louisiana is getting snow. Got like 10 inches of snow.
Really?
It was I think it was either the end of 2024 or the end of 2025. Both Texas near Houston and Louisiana ended up getting almost a foot of snow in a storm.
Damn.
Like the last time Louisiana got snow was like, I think it was either the 1890s or maybe like 1910s. And it was only 6 inches or something.
Damn.
Because that's another myth, actually. People don't realize, like, a lot of people think climate change, like global warming, they think that it's just going to be hotter and hotter and hotter. But one thing that people don't realize is that it's actually going to be swings to both ends. It's not that the climate is going to get hotter, it's that there's going to be more energy in the atmosphere. And so now it's going to have the capacity for greater swings in change. So we're also going to have some of the coldest temperatures in history, some of the worst snowstorms in history, some of the worst deep freezes in history. It's not just the other end of the spectrum. It's not just going to be, oh, we're all going to turn into desert. We're all just going to have drought. We're not going to have rain. Some places will, like, it's going to be a situation that you typically see in deserts. But instead of it being over like seasonal, it'll be like every single year. So, for example, you'll have January to March, it'll just be raining. It'll be raining and raining and raining. You'll get like 40 inches of rain in a series of storms that will hit over the span of weeks. You'll have a big storm. It'll hit, you'll have like a day break, and then you'll get hit by another storm. And then you'll have another break, and then you'll get hit by another storm, and then a break and another storm. And then you'll peter out, like probably April, May, you'll dry out. It'll be nice, sunny, mild. And then June, by the end of like May to the beginning of June, it'll be hot. 100 degrees, 110 degrees, depending on where you're living. God forbid you have the humidity index. And it's just going to be hot up until August, September. And then come September, November, like from September to like November-ish or October, depending on where you live, it's just going to be wildfires, hot, humid, hot, like that dry, like sucks the heat out of your, sucks the moisture out of your skin type of air. And then by Christmas time, it's going to be cold. It's going to be freezing. And then you'll swing back to that wet, rainy weather. Those are the types of swings that you might be expecting, where you literally go from flood to drought, back to flood, and you go from hot to freezing cold, back to hot, really quickly. It also can happen in shorter spans of time, where you might have Midwest style weather, but more frequently. So you'll wake up in the morning, it'll be sunny, and then by the afternoon there's thunderstorms, and then the end of the day you have a tornado, and then at night it like hails and snows. So you aren't expecting this type of weather. If you go out and it's sunny, you're not going to be expecting a huge thunderstorm to sweep through and flood your entire town by the end of the day. So this type of bouncing weather is very, very dangerous. It's also dangerous in the sense of the environment, because it causes the environment to fall apart more quickly. The soils that undergo extreme temperatures throughout the summer, they're dried out, they have all their moisture pulled out of them, they have all of their nutrients pulled out of them because nothing can grow in there, no animals are going nearby because there's literally nothing to do. So the soil turns into rock, it turns into dry dust, like dust bowl dust. And so this dry Dust Bowl dust doesn't hold together because there's nothing organic in there. There's no sticks. There's no organic material like grasses and animal feces and stuff like that, and fur to hold it together. And so as soon as it hits water or wind, it's just going to blow away or wash away. It's going to go with the water and with the wind. And so that's what caused all of those dust storms during the Dust Bowl. That is what causes mudslides. That is what causes landslides. If you noticed out in wildfire affected areas, very typically after they've had those wildfires within the first rainy year, they're also seeing landslides because all of that vegetation is gone. And so the rocks just fall apart and fall down the hills. It rapidly reshapes our environment much faster than it would have normally. It also increases seaside erosion. Not only does that's another myth. A lot of people think that the sea level is just rising. It is rising, but it's also affecting the whole temperature gradient changes and stuff are also affecting the crust itself. It's not just affecting the sea, the ocean, it's also affecting the land. And you're having areas that used to be frozen starting to melt and rise up because ice is very heavy. And so the land is actually bouncing back now that ice is gone. So places that had glaciers, places that had permafrost are starting to rise up or sink back down because nothing's holding them together. You're having land, it's called land subsidence, in areas where there used to be water, but they're drying out. So now you have sinkholes. You can also have that if you have too much water, because then it rises up and it disturbs the top layers and it washes it away, which you're seeing in areas like Tennessee and Texas and I think like Louisiana and Mississippi, a lot of the wetlandy type areas. As I said, the Arctic and Russia are having those issues. So the land is both collapsing and being drowned. There's so many different aspects that contribute to sea level rise. It's quite fascinating, actually. I wrote this out once because there's so much to it. But the short of it is basically we're getting more water. There's more rain. So you're filling up rivers and lakes much faster. They're draining out to the ocean much faster. And so the ocean is accumulating more water. Additionally, as we all know, water expands when it gets warmer. And so as the ocean gets warmer, it literally voluminously takes up more space. The ocean is literally expanding because of the heat. It also, as I said, increases erosion along the cliffs and stuff like that. More weather, warmer water creates more stronger currents and waves, shifts in currents and stuff like that. So you're more likely to degrade at the cliff's edge. And also, as I said, it's sinking the land in some areas. And so as you're sinking the land, you're making it lower its elevation. And so it's able to be underwater more often in that sense. And it's also increasing the water table in the land itself. And so even if you're away from the ocean, you can still have regions that are now underwater because they're flooding more frequently, the water table's higher, and it doesn't have a chance to discharge out into the ocean. So even if you don't live by the ocean, you can still be affected by sea level rise, because it's not a rise in sea level, it's a rise in the water table level. The water table covers the entire planet. It's just some of it has ground on top of it. There's a lot of water underneath us that we don't see, that's deep in the earth. But that is also rising and expanding. So that's another myth, is that you can avoid sea level rise by being away from the ocean. But if you are on a wetland, if you are by a river, If you are by a lake, if you are by a stream, if you're on a mountain, if you're, as I said, by the ocean, you are at risk of sea level rise and being affected by flooding as a result of climate change. So you definitely can't escape it just by being away from the ocean. That's a huge myth that I hear all the time where they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to move to Arizona or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but you're still going to get more flooding. You're still going to get like, I personally would never move to Arizona, or at least Phoenix, Arizona, ever, because on average now they get like 130 days a year of above 100-degree weather, and over 90 days, I think, a year of over 115-degree weather. No, thank you. I have felt 112. I think I experienced 115 in a pool. It was outside and I was in the pool. But to live in that and work in that and exist as a human, no, thank you. I'm good. I, as much as I don't like the snow, I equally do not like hot weather. I would rather not roast in my car, literally roasting. So yeah, these climate swings can affect you no matter where you're located. And there's not really a way to avoid it because it's going to affect everything. It's going to affect our food supply. It's going to affect our clothing. It's going to affect our access to healthcare. It's like, it's going to affect so many things because it's all interconnected. Healthcare is going to be harder to come by with climate change because these disasters are going to increase people's need to use these facilities. We're going to have more issues. We're going to have more breathing problems as a result, because you can have breathing issues as a result of dust, as a result of flooding and mold and insects and rat excrement. And obviously all of the injuries that can occur from all of these disasters, if you're in a storm or a landslide or mudslide or a collapse of land of some sort. So our health costs are going to go up. People are more likely to have asthma issues in hot weather. The effects of like skin cancer and all of these cancers from the free radicals and chemicals in our air and from the sun. And yeah, it's a whole mess. Like, climate change is not something that we want to encourage and let happen and let keep progressing. One of the very nice things about climate change is it is one of those things that you can basically stop in its tracks once you stop producing these types of once you stop producing carbon dioxide and methane and all of these gases at the rate that we're at. Like, once you start to decrease, you will start to see impacts decrease. So it is very much a fluid system in that every action really does have an impact. And so that's what's so crucial with climate change and what's so frustrating as a professional, to know that the answer is right there, but people just don't want to do it because it involves an element of sacrifice. That's why this is such a huge issue, is because people don't want to give up their comforts. And that's what's required to protect our planet and protect ourselves. Our is behind all of this. If we didn't have this ridiculous need to consume at the level that we're consuming, we would not have these problems. If we stayed at a level of about this was a study, if we stayed at a 1950s level of consumption, we would very likely have the same level of happiness, but our planet would be like 80% better than it is today. Like, the pollution would be so much less. The heat, the global warming would not be as bad as it is. They even said that there probably would be improvements in human rights if we were not using the type of rampant consumerism technology that we're putting out today. So yeah, it's pretty disheartening to know that we can actually do something fairly quickly, but people just don't want to because of all of these myths that are put out there. Like, oh, well, you want to live in the Stone Age? We're just gonna have to go without electricity. I'm like, that's not how that works. To stop climate change, you don't just like flip the switch and like turn it off. We'll deal with it. We'll go back to sticks and fire. Like that's not the way climate change adaptation works. What we do is we slowly shift so we have more movement towards certain technologies that are cleaner, and then you gradually reduce your reliance on those more damaging fuel sources. It does take time, and that is why we should have been doing something in the 90s or even the 80s, but here we are. So we really have to start going faster. Thankfully, the ball is rolling. We are having a faster transition to clean energy than we've ever had in history. But we still have a lot of pushback. We still have a lot of encouragement from certain individuals to, go out there and take advantage of the resources. I don't want to say the catchphrase because I don't want to attract that kind of thing, but you know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. But it's a bit frustrating to not have the support of this country. At least a lot of the other countries are taking action. China actually has, as of 24, I think, or maybe a little bit before, they surpassed 50%, more than 50% of their energy is now produced by clean sources, whether it's hydropower, wind, solar, stuff like that. I don't know if they use nuclear yet, but like they're doing it, and they're the industrial king of the world right now. So we could benefit our country by following a similar trajectory right now, because it's very clear that it's possible. And we need this. We really need to fix everything, because as I was pointing out earlier, this is not something you can ignore. This is not something we can ostrich and stick our head in the sand and, oh, it won't affect me. It won't happen to me. But food shortages can happen to anyone. Pandemics can happen to anyone. These disasters, floods, fires, tornadoes, storms, these can affect anyone. And you really, really don't want to be that person jeering at the gods, like, oh, you won't do that to me. Don't test them. Don't test the earth. Don't test. I don't put it past the earth to surprise me. So I definitely don't want to tempt her. And we're kind of dangling. We're kind of poking a stick at the giant we live on right now. So it's it would be beneficial to us if we start listening to all of these signals that our Earth is giving off. We're losing glaciers at record speed. We are watching them disappear in rates that humans could visualize on time-lapse photography and video. We can see continent or country-sized pieces of ice breaking off and floating off into the ocean because it's melting so quickly. We're seeing people literally roasting in their apartments because the air conditioners can't keep up with the heat waves. In Spain, I believe, they had a heat wave that was so severe that it wiped out the elderly population. I mean, not entirely, but it dramatically was it was overwhelmingly older individuals because their children, the elderly, and people with issues with their bodies have a hard time regulating their temperatures, and they in the nighttime, if the air does not cool down, if it's hot enough, the night doesn't make a difference in temperature. And so their bodies still weren't able to cool down enough to prevent damage to their organs. And so they were dying in the middle of the night because they basically were overheating from the day, but it wouldn't go away. And so they died in their sleep. This is happening in America. This is happening in China. This is happening in Europe, in Africa, in Australia, everywhere. It is happening everywhere. And to me, heat is the scariest one because you can't really escape it, especially if you don't have the housing for it. Like earthquakes, you can make your buildings retrofitted to withstand earthquakes. Like there are earthquake-proof buildings in Japan that will literally like sway back and forth with the earth and not collapse because of how they're made. You can make buildings that are storm-proof and that are hurricane-proof, and things that can withstand or prevent flooding from entering inside the household and stuff like that. But if the power grid falls because it can't handle all of the people having their air conditioning on and their fans on and doing whatever they can to cool themselves down, there's nothing you can do, because even the inside of your home could be 110, 115 degrees if it's that hot outside, especially if you're in regions that are tropical, because then you also have the humidity as well. It can literally suffocate you. So heat waves are no joke. Cold snaps are extremely dangerous as well. People definitely underestimate temperature fluctuations without weather. Like if there's no weather involved, a lot of people are like, oh no, it's not that big of a deal, I'll just stay in my house. But it can get you too, because if we lose power, we're hopeless against it. So it's a dangerous situation to allow the earth to fluctuate as severely as we're allowing it to do. Venus is a perfect example of what happens when runaway climate change is allowed. Venus is, I believe, 600 degrees. And that is compared to Mercury. Mercury is only 130 or 160 degrees. But that's because Mercury does not have an atmosphere. Even though it's the one closest to the sun, Venus is still hotter because it has carbon dioxide and methane as their atmosphere. And that is exactly what we're adding to our atmosphere. So yeah, we don't want to end up like Venus. 600 degrees is unlivable. That would even burn cookies. So that is not a future that we want for this planet, because that would wipe life out. There is very, very, very few organisms that can survive 600 degrees. Maybe the creatures that live in like not hot tubs, thermal vents and stuff. But yeah, that is not a planet that we want.
I saw a video a while ago. It was on the History Channel, if I'm not mistaken, and it was showing a time lapse of I can't remember where it was, but it was showing how over time that particular piece of land was going. It was essentially going underwater. It was slowly getting submerged underwater, and I can't remember how they broke it down, but like it's a real thing. It really is a real thing. And if I could remember where I sourced it, then I could actually show y'all what I was talking about. But it's real. And it's a scary thing especially when you think about, for me personally, I've experienced up to 100 and maybe 4 degrees, 104 degrees. I've never felt anything above that. I don't think I could survive anything above that. And we're getting older. So if you're not eating healthy, if your body is worn down from work, that's going to play a large factor. I don't know where everyone is from. Out there where you are, bro, in Miami, I know it gets hot out there. I know it gets hot out there.
My husband and I have gone out to Houston. It's not proper Houston, but it's like the farmish type suburb area. We went in June of 2023, I think. And I am from California. I've almost always, like, I've lived in California pretty much my entire life, except the 1 year that I lived in Illinois when my husband was in boot camp. I have never felt so suffocated by heat. Like, stepping outside, I felt like I had to peel the air off of my face to breathe. Like, it was so, I understand that comparison of like breathing in water. It just like I felt like what a fish must feel like out of water. It's so awful. I don't understand people who are like, oh, I love this. It's so moisturizing for my skin. Like, it's sucking the moisture out of my whole body. Like, it's gonna steal the soul out of my body. Like, if I stay here. Oof. Yeah, and then without air conditioning, I don't understand how people could survive without air conditioning. Like, we don't even get heat that bad, but like right now it's 89 and I have to turn the heat on. The air conditioner on because the it's very slightly humid, but that's enough to make it feel like, all right, it is way too stuffy in this house right now.
Before we had air conditioners in this, we had the air fan, the fan that you had to put in the window. And like, I'm telling you, even then, that didn't really do you no good because all it was doing is sucking in the hot air from outside back into the house. So it was like,
yep.
You move away from the fan, you're probably doing yourself a favor by it versus sitting in front of it. But yeah, I agree. I never, matter of fact, let me rephrase that. I didn't think that we would witness what we're seeing with the environment, with politics, with everything. I didn't think it would be us until I hit a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where and when. It was somewhere around my teens, and I saw it, and then I was like, all right. I think it was probably when I started taking it real serious is when everybody thought that the Y2K thing was going to happen and all the power grids were going to go down and all that. That's when I started paying more attention to all of it.
I think for me, I really honed in on climate change, or like I first learned about it in 2004. I was 9, I think. Yeah, 9. I heard about I had gone to a field trip in the beginning of 2020 or 2004, I think. Maybe around like April. And they had this exhibit talking about climate change, and this whole, it was like a mini field trip to a wetland to talk about like the importance of wetlands for the environment and for people and whatever. But they had this booth there that was talking about the importance of wetlands to Louisiana and how they break up storms as they come through, and they help protect the city if there's hurricanes. But then they had this scenario that they're talking about of like, one day there's going to be a big storm and it's going to like knock down the dam. Like it's going to be so strong, it's just going to wipe out the levees because they're not built to withstand a certain height of storm surge. And they're saying like, oh, this is just hypothetical and blah, blah, blah. Like it probably won't happen until like 2045 or something like that. It literally happened that year. Hurricane Katrina happened, or the year after it. Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005. And it was exactly like they said in the scenario. And ever since that happened, I was hooked. I was like, all right, if that happened, what else is going to happen? Like, I need to know. I need to figure this out. And I think around that same time, I also saw Day After Tomorrow. And that again, like I was absolutely, I was obsessed with natural disaster films. And so that was just like another thing that contributed to this passion of mine of understanding what climate change was. And it's funny because in 2016, when a certain somebody was running for president, and all of these like conspiracies were coming out, and like with the Clintons and stuff like that. There was also a lot coming out about like climate change. Oh, it's a hoax, and like, oh, it's not real. And I don't remember exactly what stemmed it, but I do remember there was a huge debate period around 2016 regarding climate change. Like I think it was because of one of the IPCC reports. It was released at that time, and they were basically like, y'all, we don't have time. Like the scientists wrote this paper, and we're basically like, you guys are screwed if you don't fix this. And it was very laid out in blunt terminology that we were dooming ourselves. And so that was, I think that was part of it. But I remember going through this brief period where I was like, what if it is a lie? Like, what if this is all faked and they're just using this to like control consumerism or something like that? Like, what if climate change is this huge hoax and I've fallen into that too? Like, what if I've been duped this whole time? And I like went back and I had to go through all of the evidence to like reassure myself that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't just like wasting my time on this whole thing. But it's crazy how good they are at deceiving the public about this, how good they are at discouraging the recognition of this problem. Even somebody that had dedicated all of my time to that, it still had the ability to make me question everything and question if it was even real or not, if they were actually telling the truth. And these are all made up by scientists for funding, and all these other stories that people were telling to like George Soros and all this other stuff. But it really speaks to how easy it is to shift public opinion with just little what's the word I want to use? Like little factoids and stuff. Like on Twitter and TikTok, you see like one short little clip is enough to like capture the entire internet into like this uproar because of the talking point. But it really impacts our ability to make progress when we have this type of dissent where it's, I mean, at this point, it's not even good faith. They're just like, nope, we have investments in this company. So they're all like, all you scientists, you guys don't know what you're talking about. But they're so blatant with it. We already know, like, we know they're benefiting from us. They don't even deny it anymore. They even have their meetings to talk about how to sway the opinions of people on climate change. Like they have active campaigns, just like McDonald's did when back in like the 90s when they were going after them about their ingredients and stuff. Like it's sad that we have to contend with this type of pushback when, I mean, this is going to affect everybody, whether you're a politician, whether you're a scientist, whether you're a postal worker, or just some mom that has her kids and is just trying to get by. Like, we're all going to be affected by climate change. It's just that the richest people are going to be able to insulate themselves from it. And so they don't care about us. They're like, who cares? I don't care if you guys are going to die. I have my house. I have my family. You guys can struggle. I'll have my 600 head of cattle and my Montana like bunker with 6 stories of supplies and stuff, so I never have to leave. Like, they know what they're doing. They definitely know. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, bro cooking in the chat.
Oh, one of the myths that billionaires love to put out all the time. I hear this from so many different lovable figures from our media sources today. One is that technology will fix everything. Technology will make everything better because we will be able to make everything more efficient. And so even if we are using fossil fuels, we'll be able to get more out of it. That's not going to happen. One, we're running out of fossil fuels. By 2050, most of the sources that we have in the United States will be out. By 2056, most of the sources in the Middle East will run out. By like the 2070s, I think they'll basically run out of all accessible oil reserves. The only reserves that will be available will be in shale oil, which is basically like deep in the earth, like 3-4 miles under in rocks. So you have to like blast them out, and it's not economical. It's a waste of money. It would be desperate. It would be a desperate move. But technology is honestly a bigger problem to climate change than it is a helper, because the amount of heat that processors take is tremendous, and the amount of energy that it takes to run stuff like that. I don't remember the exact statistic, but I know with AI, if they wanted to have an AI program, or like I forgot what they were, like the multiverse or whatever. If they had that multiverse, it would take like 10 Earths of power or something crazy. Like the amount of power we would need to actually create a system like they envision would not be feasible on this planet. We would overheat everything. We don't have enough. We don't have enough energy sources to even supply that amount of power. So yeah, that's a thing. Also, another one I wanted to mention, tree planting. It's great. Tree planting is great because we can revitalize areas that are vulnerable to collapse if they've lost their vegetation after wildfires. But there's a number of issues with planting. One is that they take a really long time to take root, and sometimes they don't even choose the right plants for those regions. And so sometimes they're young and they just get ripped out in the next storm anyways. Also, they tend to use monoculture, so they're using the same type of tree throughout the entire planting, and they're just basically like tree, and that's not how plants grow naturally in the wild. There's actually a fantastic video / documentary. I don't remember if it's long enough to be a documentary, but it's talking about how trees don't actually touch each other. If you go over tree forests, you can actually see that they make up like a mosaic where they get close to each other, but they don't actually touch each other's leaves area. So there's a whole network of trees and plants and animals and mushrooms and stuff like that that are affected. If you have monoculture, that's not good. Like, one, that allows disease to wipe through the plants much, much faster because there's no diversity. There's no natural immunity of sorts. Because when you have all the same species, if one individual can catch it, chances are all of the nearby trees can catch it. But if you have like 100 different species of things around, you'll have the tree surrounded by a bunch of plants, and then there'll be another tree of its own species off in the other area, so they can't transfer these diseases as quickly. That's why you're seeing beetle bark deaths of trees really rampantly throughout Russia and Canada and Alaska, because one, these trees have been weakened by these horrible winter storms, the shifts in temperatures, they're getting too hot, their soil's getting damaged, so these trees are already weakened. And then you introduce a pathogen, in their case a beetle, it just wipes through. The trees are weakened. It's like the same as a person with a weakened immune system. If you have trees that are physically damaged, their immune system is weak. So it's very, very traumatic, the type of the types of things that we're doing to our environment. This is very damaging to trees, to insects, and to species that have very specific environmental needs. Polar bears are not the only animal. Everyone loves to use polar bears as the poster child for climate change, but it's definitely not just polar bears. Animals of all kinds are being affected. There's been, since the 1950s, I believe, there's been a 90% decrease in insects, a 66% decrease in, I believe, reptiles and amphibians, and then a 70% decrease in mammals, I believe, and then around an 80 to 90% decrease in bird species and numbers. So yeah, it's having a massive impact on all of the fibers that make up this Earth's life system. So yeah, we really have to start doing something about this, because everything is connected to this problem. This is not like, if we kill off the trees alone, that is going to change everything. If we kill off bees alone, that is going to do a tremendous amount of damage to our ecosystem. Not related to climate change, but specific to bees, just a bonus myth. Honeybees are not the bees that are dying. It's the wild bees that are dying. Honeybees are fine. There's more honeybees in weight than there are humans on Earth. So we're definitely fine with honeybees. But it's the wild bees that are the problem. That we're losing. And the reason why honeybees are, native bees are so unique is that every single bee is uniquely designed to pollinate a specific flower. And so every single bee kind of has its own assignment in the environment. And if you lose 10 species of bees, you just lost 10 species of plants, or potentially more if they can do like multiple species in the same, but yeah, that's just one example. And we are, as much as we know about the Earth, we don't know everything. We don't know what these animals do for us. We're finding out new things every day. Beavers bioengineer the environment and actually make the environment better for all of the species around them. And those are just bee birds. Like, we don't know what the birds are doing, what the other insects are doing, how important all of these aspects are for the environment. And the sad thing is, we're not going to know until we lose them. We're not going to know until we're already in the aftermath of seeing, oh, now that we don't have them, this is what's happening to us. And that's what's so dangerous about the situation, is we are now in uncharted territory. We don't know what the storms are going to be like now. When you have hotter temperatures, storms have a tendency to wander. So instead of a tornado that's like, hey, I'm going to track across the land, the tornado is going to be like, yo, what's up? I'm going to go all in these neighborhoods instead. You're going to have it dragging across the land in a less predictable fashion, which is dangerous for the people on the ground. Makes it harder to predict in terms of weather people. Also, it makes storms more likely to lag, where because they're more laden with moisture. Also, warm air doesn't move things as quickly. You can have the storms moving slower. And so it's going to linger over the land longer. It's going to have more water in it. So it's going to drop more rain on you. It's going to have stronger winds because of the difference in temperatures. So it makes storms so much worse. And then those storms will affect the animals, the environment. It's going to kill off trees. It's going to encourage pests. It's going to encourage disease. If you have flooding, that allows things like mosquitoes to proliferate and flies. It's all interconnected. And I think it's a tragedy that so many people are so uninformed about climate change, because the people that are going to be affected the most are the ones that are already vulnerable. It's the ones that are sick. It's the ones that are impoverished. It's the ones that are homeless. It's the ones that need healthcare and don't have it. It's the people that have multiple kids and don't have the resources to care for them. It's the people that can't afford to have air conditioning in their house or live in shitty apartments because they can't afford to live in a house that's retrofitted and healthy and circulated and insulated and all of these things that make houses safe in disasters. So we as a culture should have an obligation to protect people by stopping this from happening. We are actively doing damage to people of the future, our own children and their children, by not doing anything about this, by allowing people to continue degrading our environment, continuing to contribute to the greenhouse gases that are in our air, which also carbon dioxide, the higher levels of carbon dioxide you have in the air that you breathe in, it actually lowers your IQ. So we actually get less smart when we have higher concentrations of CO2 in our environment. So it's going to make us even less capable of fixing this problem. It's man, I love talking about climate change, but it is sometimes disheartening because not everyone cares about it in the same way that I do. It's always fun when I get to talk about it with people that reflect the same opinions or are interested in learning, because then I get to just like, yeah, I have facts. Like, here, let me give you my facts. But it's always jarring when you do encounter somebody that's doesn't believe in it. And I've talked to climate deniers before. I used to work at an aquarium, like a research marine aquarium, and I would give tours, and part of our discussion discussed erosion of the cliffs, and so we had to bring up climate change to mention that it increases erosion and stuff like that. And I had somebody look me straight in the face and was like, that doesn't exist. And at the time I was like 16 and I did not know how to respond to that. But it is what led into my studies, my degree. My master's degree is in climate change perception. I investigated what it is that drives people to change their mind about climate change, what motivates people to see that it exists and that they want to do something about it. And what I found largely is that it's the direct impacts. It's not until somebody sees it in front of their face, has it directly impacting them, that they really start to make the connection. Now, it doesn't have to be a direct connection. It could be like the parent sees it happen to their child, an adult child or something, or like it happens at your work or something. But people have to be personally affected for this to sink in and be realized as a necessity for their life. And to a degree, you do kind of require a level of fear to motivate yourself. I found that in myself. I've always wondered if you could extricate fear from preparation, but to some degree, you have to have some level of fear because it is, one, a motivator, but it also kind of gives you ideas for what you might need to do to prepare. Because in fear, you're going to be considering like, oh, well, what could happen? What might I need? So it sounds counterintuitive, but I think to a small degree, we kind of have to embrace the fear. We have to embrace that, this is happening. This is not something we're going to be able to stop. This is not something that we're going to be able to snap our fingers and magically it's going to go away. And it's unfortunately going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be a fight the whole way. And I think, sadly, we're going to have to be pushed to the brink before we're actually going to make the revolutionary changes that are required. Like, I really think that our changes are only going to come as adaptations rather than as preparations. I think some places are going to be a little bit better at it than others. The richer areas are probably going to be the more forward planning individuals and cities and stuff like that. But I also think that we're going to see a migration. I think a lot of the smaller cities that aren't going to be able to afford the damage that they're going to experience, but the retrofits necessary, they're just going to be moving into the cities. So I think we're going to be seeing a diminishment of smaller communities and people shifting towards the cities, kind of like we did in the Great Depression. That unfortunately can make things a little bit more difficult because the country is typically more resilient from climate change because their environment hasn't been as modified. But at least you have your resources available in a smaller area if people are able to afford it. But that's beside the point. What was I going to add? I was going to say something else, but I forgot.
Hey, it's all good. As far as I'm concerned, you just gave a whole course. But like between you and my brother in the chat, both of y'all been cooking this whole time. So for real, shout outs to both. This was necessary. This segment is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And look, we ain't going to hit 1 million people, but there are a few folks that see this and they're just as concerned, or they have some level of care for what we're speaking on. You know what I'm saying? So both of y'all, it's a stretch.
To speak to the question of how will people be migrating to other countries due to climate change, it's going to happen in a couple different ways. We're already starting to see it. One is that communities are just going to be completely abandoned, where they're becoming unsafe. And either this is happening in a California community where the ground is literally falling out from underneath the houses. And so they have a program to like move people out. So we'll see stuff like that where it'll be more like government instructed, like this is unsafe, you need to move. So they'll relocate them somewhere. You'll also see migrations happening as a result of people's homes being destroyed and they either no longer want to or can no longer afford to move back to the homes that they originally lived in. We've seen this. This is very common with wildfires. If you ever want to know more about this, you can hear about it in stories from Lahaina, from my God, what is it? The Camp Fire up in California, the fires that just happened in LA. I'm blanking on the name. The one that happened in the largely ethnic community, and now they're being basically forced out because they've increased the prices of that area. But very common. They're priced out of the area once the homes have been destroyed and they get rebuilt and stuff like that. Thanks to developers buying up properties from people that aren't coming back. You'll also see migrations of people moving back in with their parents and with families. We'll see more multi-generational homes, I think, in the coming decades as people, try to adapt to the changing economic situations, but also because of climate change. Climate change is going to make it harder to build houses places. It's going to make the materials for the houses less easy to find. It's going to make it harder to support the houses because they're going to be more expensive with all the energy and everything. So it's going to make it harder for people to live by themselves. So we'll definitely see that type of migration. As I said, we'll also probably see a migration from places that don't have utilities set up as well. So places that are relying on like water tanks or sucking water out of the ground. Those places will likely be abandoned. Places that are too hot or are at risk of being flooded are likely going to be abandoned. I would not be surprised if we see large cities in Arizona being abandoned. Maybe not Phoenix, but definitely some of the quote unquote bigger small cities. And then you'll also have a type of slow moving migration where communities just don't attract people anymore. And so they die off because nobody moves in, but then everyone else just ages out of the community. So yeah, there's going to be migrations of all kinds. I would not be surprised if later in the century we start to see mass migrations where it literally becomes unlivable in an instant, and so you have thousands of people leaving. I don't think we're there yet, thankfully, hopefully, but it is a possibility into the future. It's very much been a thing in parts of Asia, in parts of Africa, in parts of, obviously around the world over the course of time. But yeah, we can definitely expect to see a variety of migrations over this next time period of undetermined amount of time.
I needed to hear this. And to the people that are watching, I hope you got something from this entire conversation. Like I said, this is her pride and joy here. So when she's talking about this, I'm listening intently because I know there's a lot of things that I wasn't even aware of that got me a little more concerned and a little more considerate with how I treat my property. But I'm still a little hard-headed with my consumption of foods and stuff like that. But I'm trying to be a little more respectful to how much I'm taking in.
To be fair, I'm still pretty materialistic, and I love my guilty pleasures, even though I still believe in climate change and stuff like that. I try to do better, but it is difficult. This whole culture makes it difficult to not be a quick consumer.
Right. Y'all can watch the replay if you didn't get a chance. Knocked out.
Nobody didn't care about my
It's all good. Somebody watching absolutely wanted and needed this. Matter of fact, bro, he said, he definitely was grateful for the stream. Shout out to StreamYard again, man, for this little function here. Like I really like the fact that I can look at this on the screen live while this is going on. Because I might have to step away from the camera and it still shows up. So the people that are watching get to see the interactions between us and the people. So thank you again. Shout outs to you, shout outs to everybody that's in the building. Tomorrow, me and Jason is pulling back up 7 p.m. same time, same place. Do me a solid, make sure y'all locked in, hit that bell so you get notified when we go on. Anything you want to plug before we get up out of here?
Well, one, do something about climate change, whatever works for you, because it shouldn't be like a one size fits all solution. There's always ways that you can adjust your needs so it's still a transition that works for you. Every little bit does count. Other than that, I highly encourage reading IPCC reports if you're interested in learning about climate change. For me, that's my favorite method of getting the information because it's the most accurate. It's compiled by hundreds or thousands of experts. It might be a little bit difficult to digest, but one, I always love talking about that, so I could always do some sort of discussion on how to read scientific information. But there's also people that will break it down and talk about it in layman's terms. My favorite is Paul Beckwith. He posts all the time about articles being put out about climate change, and he's an expert himself. So he would be a really good resource for anyone that wants to learn more. I also have a poetry book about climate change, which I'm hoping to be ready by the end of the year. So if you want to learn about it from a more artistic perspective, I'll have that available eventually.
That's what's up. I wish you all the best success with that one. To the people that are watching, tap in with her. Tap in with my brother in the chat too as well. He's a dope artist, a very dope artist, and a deep thinker. His posts, his conversation pieces, his thinking pieces, phenomenal. Just all love on this side of the internet. All love, all the time. And I'm just grateful, and I thank God for allowing me to have a platform to be able to have these type of discussions. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm about to get up out of here. The rain is calling for me to relax. I absolutely love the rain. I love the sound of it hitting the roof and the windows. Yeah. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, yeah. One more thing before we get up out of here.
What's the goddamn button?
Your digs. We up out of here, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all night. All right, remix. Wrong one. This is the one we want right here.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Art Muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait, how they get it? If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there. They got lanes closed. They got their strange machines.